happening where you are.
Well, that's exactly right. This is the same group that was in the street a short while ago. You remember the girl with the flowers? She's in the back of a police car crying. There's probably 20 people in flex cuffs along the curb, arrested for violating a curfew order. Now, what's going to happen is that their police take their names, their birth dates, other vital information. They're brought onto this sheriff's department bus, and they're given a criminal citation, it's called. They're not going to be booked. They're not going to be taken to a county jail. And we're talking with some of these people here. We're live on Fox 11. What happened with you and police?
So basically, when I got here, I just came out to see what was going on, then realized that there were a lot of police presence, so I decided to leave. I wasn't able to get out anywhere. There was police barricades pretty much every direction I walked, and they cornered us into that intersection right there.
So you're saying they didn't give you an opportunity to leave?
No, I mean,
You're not aware of the curfew?
Curfew, I heard all day was 8:30.
Yeah, so see, that's some of the confusion, Alex and Christine. Thanks for talking to us. I appreciate it. I was speaking with you earlier. What was your experience out here?
Well, pretty similar. Like I said, a few hours ago, I joined an obviously peaceful demonstration. Not in a matter of minutes, but through several events that I witnessed, became a little less than peaceful, but still not completely out of hand. Not what we were seeing last night on the news, nothing like that.
Were you aware of the 4 p.m. curfew?
I was aware of a 6 p.m. curfew personally. In my opinion, that curfew is being instated to prevent people's constitutional right to protest. I think it's an unconstitutional measure on the mayor's part, and I think he should be ashamed.
Well, thanks for talking to us. I appreciate it. So again, this is on 6th Street, Alex and Christine, just north of Colorado, a few blocks away from the out-of-control looting we saw early this afternoon. So police made a decision with guidance from the city that as of about a half an hour ago, almost 3 hours after that curfew went into effect, they decided to arrest anybody who was still, and there's disputes over whether they were given the opportunity to leave or whether they were just handcuffed while they were on the street without any warning.
Question, Phil, that I think a lot of our
here's
my question, which I think a lot of our viewers will have.
Yeah.
They've decided to arrest the protesters that were there peacefully, yet the looters who were taking stuff right in front of their faces, they didn't arrest those people?
Well, that's a little bit too simplistic. I mean, the looting was happening without the police there. The police say they were elsewhere. You heard the police chief earlier explain that. But then when we saw the police on their skirmish line with looters, in front of them with obviously stolen merchandise, they did not go after them. Yes, but it's been a very hectic, volatile, dangerous, unpredictable day here, and this is where we're at this point. The looting happened. The police weren't there. They've now regained control of the situation, and they've made a decision from the city to take anybody into custody who's still out on the street.
Yeah, and then unfortunately we were watching some looting in some stores in Santa Monica underway while that press conference was happening and while those arrests were being made. Phil Schuman, thank you for your continued excellent work on the streets of Santa Monica. We now go live to Long Beach, where there is a sizable protest underway there. That's where our Susan Hirasuna has been reporting. You see the crowd there. We have seen some looting in Long Beach earlier. Susan Hirasuna, what's the situation look like now?
Well, it's been kind of dynamic, Alex, kind of quiet at times, and then other times the crowd really gets going. But I want to show you what's going on down here. This occurred just about 20 minutes, half an hour or so ago, when all of a sudden all of these vehicles pulled up a little bit down the street, and slowly they pushed the people who came to meet them more towards the intersection of 3rd Street and Pine Avenue. But you see the armored vehicle there. You see all of these police officers, many of them with the less than lethal guns that they have at the ready, as well as batons. And behind them, you might see all those those plastic handcuffs where they can restrain people, because we are, of course, under the curfew orders now. So these people are breaking those curfew orders. So they are sort of forced to go farther north and to the east. Is sometimes a crowd, sometimes emotional. I had a man come up and start yelling at the police officers and name his 4 children. And I tried to have a conversation with him, and then somebody else came up and it just all got disrupted. But meantime, you know, as you see here, lots of these are protesters. These are not the people that went to go looting, at least to the best of my knowledge, because when you look at them, they're either holding signs or they're expressing their disdain and their sadness for the death of George Floyd, and also, frankly, that many of these people are people of color who can... Not sure if that was, or you know, sometimes it's helpful to be in the market for as long as I have, because I've been here 24, almost 25 years, and at one point one of the police officers said, "Susan, could you please move?" So we did, but then another superior officer came and said that we could be behind the police line here, so we could keep an eye on the protesters and be behind the police line. But yeah, there's protesters, and now that is another explosion. Not clear where that came from, but it seemed to come from a different direction.
Such a very tense situation there. Go ahead.
Well, we were sort of expecting, it seemed as if there was some attempt to actually start to move these people out of the downtown area, but right now it seems to be a bit of a standoff. There are people who are like, I'm not a part of this, I just need to get home. And instead, the police are saying, I'm sorry, you're going to have to go another way. You cannot go this way. Meantime, there's a police dog I'm hearing, very excited, but still on the leash. So Long Beach Police, they mean business. They're here. All of these people are under this, breaking this curfew order. And I just wanted to show one more thing, which is a little comedy to add to the seriousness of the situation. If Carlos, my photographer, can pull over, you might be able to see that there is a man here. He has a long stick and a string, and attached to the string is a donut. And so periodically we've seen him approach the officers and sort of hold it up. So a little bit of levity in a serious situation. But we are keeping an eye on the situation. We'll try to move to another location if possible. Now, this location, we did not see any looting. However, a little farther up the road, I definitely heard glass smashed and then people making entry into something which looked like pretty much an empty store. So I'm not quite sure what the appeal was.
All right, Susan Hirasuna.
Susan.
Okay, firecrackers in the WeWork building, as somebody is telling me.
Susan,
okay.
Thank you.
I'll throw it back to you guys.
And Susan, talking about her experience, and I think, Christine, in the last few days, we've really seen the value of experience in the field between Susan and Phil Schuman and Bob DeCastro and so many of our reporters, and working with you on the desk here. You know, people that have been in these communities for decades and know them so well and have such great context to frame it. And I personally have just felt so fortunate and honored to be on a team with so many experienced journalists, I think, who have done such a tremendous work telling this important story.
And you, too, being out in the field for so long in Southern California. But, you know, what I wanted to ask Susan, if we get back to her, I will pose this question. because she's been covering the coronavirus for us on a nightly basis. And I'm wondering, you see some with masks, some without, but what a difference to be covering this story. It's changed so rapidly, but there is still that concern about the coronavirus. Like we saw in her shot, there were some without masks, with no concern, it seems.
Well, and I thought so often during our coronavirus coverage that, like, it had been forever since we'd covered a vigil or covered some sort of community event, because people were not allowed to do that. We see these people trying to climb a fence, not sure what exactly they were doing that led to that. And now you see police. Okay, so here we go. They are going after these people. We're seeing them literally running after these people. This guy's running very fast away from the cops. And you just saw all those cops that are showing up. Amazing that one of them has now been taken into custody. Did the other guy get away?
We are near Santa Monica High School as we see this here. Remember, there is a curfew in effect. They are saying you will be arrested. They are effecting arrests, as they say right now.
But the fact that they climbed over the fence there made you believe that they maybe were involved in some sort of suspicious activity. Who knows? You see that chopper. All right, so the tension continues in Santa Monica tonight. Let's go to Bill Malusian, check in with him for the first time. I know, Bill, you've been focused on one store where you saw an actual arrest take place.
Alex, that's exactly right. We saw a looter actually get taken down by LAPD a short time ago. So we're at Wilshire and 26. There's a New Balance store on the corner. We saw a group of looters breaking in. They tried to flee. They got into a car and took off, but they left one guy behind who wasn't fast enough. LAPD saw and began pursuit. If we can pull up that video right now, we'll show it to you. We started rolling as soon as we saw LAPD see them. You're going to see an LAPD cruiser immediately take off after one of the looters who was running on foot, trying to get away. He tries to turn a corner. LAPD catches up to him. They get out, and he immediately surrenders and gets taken down without incident. Now, I had the chance to interview this guy just a short time ago. He was very candid about why he's out here. Take a listen to what he had to say. All right, man, we saw you at the New Balance store. Why you out here?
Man, period, point blank, just like all my real ones trying to get some money. Explanation, that's it. Trying to get some dough, that's it.
Just out here for the money?
Yeah, pretty much.
Anything to do with the protests, what happened in Minnesota?
I mean, a little bit to do with that too, you feel me? But not really. I'm out here for the dough.
Was it worth it?
Obviously not. I'm out here hemmed up. Yeah, y'all see it. Man, if y'all gonna get some money, do it right. Don't do it the dumb way. Do it the smart way. Yeah.
Thanks for your time, man. Best of luck to you. And guys, that guy was actually very refreshingly honest, explaining exactly why he's out here. He said he's not hiding behind the protest. He said, look, essentially he's an opportunist. He wanted to come out here for the money, and he realizes he made a mistake. LAPD spent a little bit of time with him, trying to talk to him, saying, hey, man, you can't be doing this. You got to turn things around. You don't go down this path. And he seemed to acknowledge it. He shook his head, said he understood, but he was cited and released. He was not taken to jail. The police officers told us there's just no capacity right now. This was in Santa Monica's jurisdiction. They said they have their hands full. There's no one to come pick him up. So LAPD just had to cite him and release him. We'll send it back to you.
I'm just looking at the shop behind you, the Pacific dining car. That looks a little weathered there. The awning there. Is everything okay with that business?
Yeah, nothing. I mean, nothing has happened to this business. It happened just down the street from us. Our cable just can't reach that far at the moment. Where you see those guys at the bus stop, there's a New Balance store to the left. That's where the windows are broken out. That's where we saw the looters. Yeah. All of them got away except the one we interviewed. They got away in a car. Wow. He told us he lives in San Bernardino, and he apparently came out here with a bunch of buddies.
Huh.
Wow, that is amazing to see. And so I mean, essentially, even though they caught him, really, like, no consequences?
Essentially, unless you consider a citation a consequence, which most people probably won't. Yeah, they said, look, Santa Monica PD is just really slammed right now. We haven't seen any Santa Monica police in this area. We're further inland, kind of right by the border of West LA and Santa Monica. All we've seen out here is LAPD. So they said, look, yeah, we're LAPD. We made the arrest, but this is Santa Monica's jurisdiction. They don't have the capacity to come pick them up right now because we still see all the helicopters down there by the promenade area and all that. They're busy. So we have to let him go. And he just walked down the street that way and promised he wasn't going to do it again. So.
Let's hope let's hope he doesn't. Wow. Meanwhile, you're talking about the arrests of Santa Monica PD. Let's go to the Skyfox picture full. We do see more arrests that are underway right now in Santa Monica. This is we're technically under that curfew as we bring up sort of the key points of this hour. Now 7:30, Alex Michelson with Christine Devine on Fox 11. That curfew is now in effect for all of Los Angeles County, where we have seen widespread looting. Santa Monica City Hall, among those things that was vandalized, although I think it may have been really the courthouse that was more of a target than Santa Monica City Hall. We have seen some peaceful protests, and we have seen some looting in the process.
It is only 7:30 on a Sunday night. It feels like we have been on the air forever as we are watching more arrests in Santa Monica. They had put out the warning that you would be arrested if you're on the streets. That curfew went into effect at 4 p.m. So you have to wonder, did these people, as we heard from Phil's live shot, some said they didn't know it was 4 p.m. I'm wondering if others did, and they want to be arrested to make that statement throughout their protest or whatever they're doing here on the streets.
And you also wonder how many of these people are actually from Santa Monica. As Bill just mentioned, that one guy said that he was from San Bernardino. Earlier, Phil interviewed somebody who said he was from Indiana. So you wonder how many of these people have come into Santa Monica, may not be as aware of all the local rules there, maybe not spending a lot of time watching us as they've been trying to loot throughout the day. And now we finally see some arrests after a lot of hours of not seeing arrests. The question is, and Bill's live shot just pointed this out, okay, now they're arrested, what happens now? Do they just release them? And how good is this arrest if there's nothing more that comes with it? So now we are going, where are we going, guys? We're going to Christina Gonzalez, who's in downtown Los Angeles, where we have seen a large police presence in place. Christina.
Yes, and actually, remember I told you a little while ago that if they were going to try to move these people, Metro would be the ones to do it? Well, that's what you're seeing at right now. Behind the crowd is Metro beginning to organize itself to possibly, and I'm going to say possibly because it has not been decided, but since it is after the curfew and people are refusing to leave, they have brought out some of the units. They kind of set themselves up on that side of the area in front of City Hall. At this point, there have been no arrests. There has been no violence. There's just a lot of confrontation, as it were. You might notice that behind the people from Metro who are trying to possibly explain to some of the protesters that they should go home is the National Guard. And they are present in downtown Los Angeles, definitely ready to be on a supportive role to law enforcement if they need it. At this point, I can tell you that that is the street in front of City Hall. City Hall itself, if I can turn you around, Dave, let's go this way. Bear with us and don't get, you can see over here, that's the area we showed you earlier. They moved away. They were able to get them away from that barricade, which they were pushing forward. And City Hall, these guys are not going to move from here. The whole point here is to defend City Hall throughout the night, and they will be posted here. But if they want to clear the street in front of City Hall, which is Spring Street, and to move these people, that would be Metro's function, to give you some of the idea of how they would do this. And they have shown up. They are trying to talk to them. At this point, this is a part of the crowd that says they are not going to move, period, curfew or not curfew. We have seen a few more people coming this way. I don't know if you see them arriving and going towards the crowd, but it is still not a huge crowd by any means. It's not the type the hundreds that we had earlier, but it's definitely a couple of hundred people, I would say. So we will stand by and we'll let you know what happens. So far, so good. No arrests and nothing violence. We will keep you updated. Live from downtown Los Angeles, I'm Christina Gonzalez. Back to you guys.
That visual that you had there of the police department backed by the National Guard is certainly something. I don't know if we could maybe swing your camera back around towards City Hall to see that line there. And you've been covering the coronavirus, as we all have. And for me, that visual of the National Guard there with their masks, I mean, LAPD pretty much has the helmets with the shields, not needing to wear necessarily a face mask. But what do you make of that visual when you see those National Guard, their members, first off, them alone, then you see them wearing the coronavirus masks?
Not sure if she can hear us.
Very friendly.
Oh.
I can hear you. If you can hear me,
yeah.
I mean,
yes,
now
we can hear you.
Both of them. All right. You know, both the National Guard and the officers have been very, very courteous. They've come down several times and tried to talk to the protesters and given out cards and really trying to allow them to protest as much as possible. The issue is what's going to happen with the curfew. It's interesting. I mean, some people were taking pictures with some of them. It was kind of strange because, again, underneath it all, there's a protest, and it's a peaceful protest. But again, you have the situation, people refusing to leave. At this point, we've had no looting down here, nothing like that. At this point, if there's anything this early on, it will be here, most likely, if they can't get these people to go home because of the curfew. And at this point, they're just waiting them out, really waiting them out. And we'll have to see what happens. But I don't know if you can see behind the crowd, those National Guard, they're also all wearing masks, all of them. You know, everybody is wearing masks. Remember, the story was coronavirus at one point. So here we are now. Remember coronavirus?
Well, you know what?
At one point, like 3 or 4 days ago.
It is still the story.
Christina, thank you.
It is.
And I think these images, our managing editor, Pete Wilgorn, had the same idea that I did. This reminds us of Occupy LA, which happened a few years back, which was at City Hall, days and days of people there, and such a large police presence around City Hall and people defending City Hall. This also brings us back to those days a little bit as well.
We were here.
Christina, thank you. We're now going to check in Santa Monica, where we are seeing a lot of arrests. Remember that curfew was put into effect at 4 o'clock. It was not enforced for a while. The city officials within the last hour said, we're going to enforce it. This is over. Go home. Get out of our city. It's time to go. And if you don't listen, we're going to arrest you. And it appears that now they are giving that show of force. It may be 6 or 7 hours too late for some people, but at least it is happening now.
I'm wondering, too, Alex, if you have these arrests, whether there are severe consequences or not, depending on what they get them on or not, does this go on your record then? Does this stay with you?
That's the question, and what they will be arrested for. That has not been the case in Central Life. Let's go to Susan here, Asuna in Long Beach, where there's been a development. Susan.
All right, we are, Alex and Christine, we are in Long Beach, not far from where we were before. I'm trying to find the intersection, but you see here, this is a store called Easy Fit, and what's interesting is you can see people just running in and grabbing merchandise and running out. This store, they actually put up boards where it says expressly black-owned, black pride, but that has not stopped anybody from going inside, and it is just chaotic, to say the least. It's surreal to see people walking out with their masks on, some without masks on, some are driving up. Look at this situation right here. The guy says, hey, open the car, and he's got an armful of stuff, and he's putting it into the car, and it's as if he just had a nice little shopping trip. Oh, I guess he's going back. And then he picked up a pair of jeans that he lost, and he's going to go back in. No problem whatsoever.
Christina.
And it's just...
Susan.
Sorry, Susan.
Surreal, to say the least. Okay. As we keep watching them and they go inside, and what's interesting, this is one of those live-work situations where you got the store downstairs and then upstairs there are people living in these apartments, and they're just like over looking over their balconies to see what's going on, and I see a man up at the very top, and he's shaking his head like he can't quite believe it himself. But meantime, you know, they're taking the hangers, they're taking boxes and boxes. And again, some with masks. And I know we were talking about how coronavirus may or may not affect this, but
wow.
Oh, that was another nice little skateboard.
Look at that.
It's someone using their skateboard to have a wider entry, I think, into the store. Meantime, I think once people find out that there is a store that they can gain entry into, then it brings people out and they head closer and run into the store. You know, some people are coming out with one item and others are coming out with armfuls. It's just really remarkable that there doesn't seem to be any fear at all that the police are going to come along. In fact, I don't see any police at all. We just left them at another location, not even a block away, and here we see all of this.
What has happened to our society where this is okay and this is happening in so many places? What has happened to the morals that we teach children, to the churches, to the institutions in society? What has happened to our society that all across the country, so many people think that it is okay to go and to steal? This is the basic things that your parents teach you when you're a little kid in a sandbox. Don't take from others. And all of these people completely disregard all of that.
Now look over here. There's some, I don't know what's going on over here. Let's very carefully, Carlos, walk over here as we see either a smoke bomb or something that went off just recently. So you see there's two entry points into this store. One is actually pretty wide, which is why they're allowed to bring out like huge boxes worth of merchandise. And surreally, I see some other people who I think live nearby and are strolling by trying to check out like what is happening exactly. And at the same time, coming to this location, we walked by another store where the glass door was broken, and there was I believe a store owner that was standing in front of it. So I think he was keeping people out. But this is the catnip, right? This is much more appealing because it's a huge store. So this one is called Easy Fit. It says black owned. Maybe I'm mistaking this one for the other one, because this store is called Jean Machine, and it has a lot of appealing logos with, you know, Vans up the wall.
Whoa! Oh, you okay, Susan?
Okay, I was a little too close to that.
Are you okay?
I'm okay, but I am okay, but I heard the concussion. And Carlos is not okay.
Okay.
Carlos,
right,
my photographer, is down.
Oh, okay. Susan, please take care of yourself.
Take care of Carlos.
Do what you need to do.
And get back to us and let us know if there's anything we can do to help him.
Gosh. That is one of the biggest concerns right there as our crews are out there on the streets trying to cover this story, and that is their own personal safety. It seemed to be okay in that location as there was pretty much absolute mayhem as people were there looting that business. We can only pray for Susan and Carlos and pray that he's okay. I hope she gets back to us quickly with a positive update. Wow.
That's such a scary thought, and so many of our reporters who have been working so tirelessly and putting themselves in harm's way to get this story out there. And Christine, I really am having a hard time processing what we're seeing. I'm having a hard time processing what led to this moment in this country, that that so many people out there have made the decision that they think that this is okay, and that they're not embarrassed to do it, that there are cameras there catching them, some of them not even wearing masks, just walking out almost proud of it, that people are posting this to social media. I don't understand.
Let me tell you how this played out after the 1992 riots. So you had a night or two of unrest, And then you had...
Just real quick, not to interrupt you, we just heard that our camera guy got up, Carlos, and he's okay. Important for our viewers that are concerned about that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I wanted to know that information.
Yeah.
Okay, so Carlos is going to be okay, is okay. All right, so you asked about what's happening to our society. So the way it played out in the '92 riots is we saw the destruction, saw the devastation, we heard of loss of life, we saw these visuals, and then there was a moment to actually talk to people who were trying to calm the streets, whether it was going live from the First AME Church, where people had gathered there. The church leaders spoke out. Celebrities who belong to the church or who support the church stood up to talk and speak out. They went out on the streets to say to young people, calm down. Young people, go home. I think right now it's still very fresh. We're still at some of these very strong visuals here. We're still seeing things that are so extremely shocking. We're still bringing live information. But I can tell you, I know people who are already on the ground trying to bring the communities together. I'm thinking of Faithful Central Church that had their service online today talking about the issue of racism and how to come together. But let's check back in with our reporter, Susan Hirasuna, on the ground with the update on our photographer, Carlos. Susan, go ahead.
All right, we just are moving ever so slightly to get to this corner so that you can see the front door of the Gene machine. Carlos did lose his balance and was on the ground once that concussive explosion occurred. It was thrown right into the street, and it was close enough to me that I could feel that effect, you know, on the air. When you have something explode like that, there is definitely concussive waves, sound waves that come at you, and I could feel that. I felt like I was a little closer to it, but Carlos was greatly affected by it. Meantime, as you see here in the front of the store, this is a huge store because we keep seeing people come out with more and more merchandise. And again, some with masks and plenty of others who seem to be thinking it's a great day to go shopping. And if you think about it, so many of us have been told to stay home and that we'd be safer at home, and we were not able to shop, and now it looks like all bets are off. The store is wide open and people feel like it is absolutely okay. And again, this is one of the stores where it seems to have well, maybe not. I thought there was a sign that sort of suggested that this was a black-owned store. That may or may not be the case. So meantime, we continue to watch people pour in. It's almost like the word gets out and then people make their way there. And there is enough traffic here. It's just wild because people are pulling up so that they can load up their can you talk to me? You want to talk to me? Did you go inside?
No, because I don't want to. Yeah. That's why I run my business online. This is so sad. Yeah, you can protest, but when you got to break into people's business and destroy everything, is so sad. I just don't get it.
Are you a resident of Long Beach?
No, I'm not.
Where are you from?
I'm from Los Angeles.
You're from Los Angeles?
Yes.
And so when you look at this, I mean, I've been describing
it's sad. It's really sad. It's really sad because it's like people work too hard to do this. Come out to their business, don't have anything. Like, come on now. Y'all got to be real. Look, y'all have to be real.
What happened to thou shalt not steal?
Huh?
What happened to that basic principle? Don't steal.
But karma is a mud. So you feel me? Whatever you sow, you're going to get it back 10 times harder. So that's on them.
Okay. Well, do you see any justification for this at all?
No. What are you getting up out of here?
Yeah. But meantime, lots of people are, they look like they're having a day at the shopping mall.
Yeah, but it's a lot of people who can't afford this stuff, so they rather do this. A lot of people who can't afford it rather do this.
Yeah.
And this is what they doing.
Are you okay? Are you safe? Because they're throwing flat bang type bombs and the like.
This is ridiculous.
Hey, yo.
Okay.
Hey, the homie Sam got insurance.
Okay.
And Long Beach is known to be a...
Susan, Carlos just gave us an artistic, fantastic shot after getting up from all of that, showing us those Black Lives Matter sign just above, because this is a place where people live. There it is up there. They're up peacefully protesting. I mean, the contrast between that trying to make that message of Black Lives Matter, and then underneath just the complete opposite of that message. All of these folks just having their way with the gene machine.
But remember, Alex, we are drawing the distinction between those people who side with Black Lives Matter and are mourning the death of George Floyd, and those people who are disruptors, who are anarchists, or who believe that it is perfectly okay to walk into somebody's store and take all of their merchandise. Someone just walked by me and says, "Hey, remember, this guy, whoever the store's owner is, has insurance, so not really a problem." But I'm telling you, for all of these people that are coming here and just taking advantage of the situation, there definitely are people here who are just shaking their heads, and they can't believe, like us, that you could be so cavalier about this and just walk in like, well, as has been said more than once, that there is this kind of lawlessness.
And this guy's putting on a skateboarding show like this is a party. I mean, a lot of these guys, it looks like a celebration that's underway.
Absolutely. Big smiles on their faces if they're not wearing the masks as they come out, and yet more and more people are coming to get more material, more merchandise.
Susan? Susan, we're going to step away,
I've never
Susan.
seen anything like this.
Yeah, thank you.
And what is your name? Are you from the Long Beach area?
Long Beach, Carson. It's always been like that. It's just shit like this. It does. I'm sorry. Situations like this don't happen.
All right, we're going to go back to Susan in a moment. Phil Schuman, we believe you have the sheriff of L.A. County with you.
That's right. We're live in Santa Monica with L.A. County Sheriff Alex Villanueva. Sheriff, I know you only have a couple of minutes, but what brings you here to Santa Monica?
Well, we're here to restore order and security of the community for the community members. So we're going to be here arresting looters. As you can see, we're rolling pretty deep, and we have an entire bus and a crew. So we're going to have to go. All right. So,
well, with respect, the looting happened hours ago.
Oh, they're still going on, and anybody who's out and about will be arrested.
All right. Thanks. Sheriff Alex Villanueva here personally. You saw LAPD Chief Michael Moore last night right out in the Fairfax district. Now you see the sheriff with his vest and his helmet on. Alex, I'm not sure what you and Christine are seeing. I have not heard of any active looting here in Santa Monica. I could be mistaken about that, but there's a huge amount of sheriff's deputies now flooding into this area.
Well, you know, that bus we're seeing right there, Phil, I can imagine is going to be to arrest the many people we've seen. We've seen a number of people in the zip tie handcuffs. You know, the sheriff has been so good to speak with Fox 11 News on many occasions, including yesterday as well. Yeah. Obviously, he felt very busy today. So quite a presence there from the sheriff's department where you are, Phil.
Yeah. We're actually in a lot that belongs to the Santa Monica Big Blue Bus Company at 6th and Colorado, and this has been a staging area for the law enforcement and the fire department's response. We've seen just this huge amount of vehicles coming and going here. And so within the past 15 minutes, the sheriff's, even more sheriff's deputies arrived. You heard the sheriff to restore order, but
well,
is it late, Alex? Tell me.
Now, because your weekend co-anchor Susan Hirasuna has quite a scene that looks a lot similar to what we saw with you a few hours ago. Can we go back to Susan, because that was pretty.
Here's the national.
Oh, go ahead, Phil. Yeah.
Here's the National Guard. Wow. The National Guard troops arriving now as well. What time was it when we were here at 4th and Santa Monica where the store was being looted? That was about
4 hours ago?
6 hours ago?
Yeah, 4, 5, 6 hours ago.
5 or 6 hours ago. Yep. The National Guard's here now. As it gets dark, of course, we don't know what's going to happen, but the curfew enforcement has been pretty successful here in Santa Monica.
Today, Phil, let me ask you, are you feeling calm? Are you feeling that order has been restored? As the sheriff says, we are here to restore order.
Well, from where I stand, yes. I mean, the crowds have been either left or taken into custody. I don't see any flames. I don't see any fires. There were, I think, 9 fires in Santa Monica earlier today. You know, as it gets darker, the people that are just here to enjoy Sunday are gone. So there you go. I mean, here's the National Guard. Hey, how are you? Can I ask you a quick question? We're live on Fox 11. Where are you from?
Burbank.
And what do you do when you're not a
full-time technician?
For the Guard?
Yes, sir.
So what is your mission? What are your marching orders?
Just to provide support for local law enforcement, whatever they need.
How do you feel about that?
I feel it's necessary. Yes, sir.
Have you been someplace else today and you're just getting here, or what have you been doing for the past 24 hours?
This is our first time being out, so we're just here to help.
Yeah, it's kind of unusual, huh?
Yes, sir.
All right, well, I'm going to get out of the way.
Amazing.
So he's a full-time National Guardsman, but so many, you know, from the community, right? Alex and Christine, and they're called into duty when necessary.
They're people who serve our country and also work full-time jobs. That was an incredible interview to hear that guy say, I feel it's necessary.
Yep. I think there's a lot of people
Yeah, and can you imagine, it would have only taken a month of request from the National Guard public information people to get permission to interview someone in the back of a truck like that. But, you know, experiences, if you just ask them a question, they're happy to answer it. Maybe they don't realize they're not supposed to be talking on the news media, but there's certainly nothing controversial about that.
You are so charming, Phil. You're able to get us access that other people wouldn't get to have. We can't help but laugh.
Obviously,
this is a very serious situation, but can't help but smile every once in a while. Phil, thank you. Now to the very serious situation in Long Beach, where your weekend co-anchor Susan Hirasuna is. We're now looking at live pictures from the air from Long Beach. This looks like the El Supermarket. Susan Hirasuna, we heard that flashbang where you were earlier. Thankfully, your photographer is okay. That's now becoming a bit of a viral moment. People are wondering about his safety. He's okay, but the looting continues where you are.
Yes, it was sort of interesting, Alex, because we went from people pouring in to suddenly people pouring out. And so now there are far fewer people making entry into this store. But we are trying to frankly figure it out as to why there was suddenly this exodus, and the rumor was that somebody yelled cops, and it does seem sort of odd that we haven't seen any cops. Meantime, that original group of protesters that we were standing alongside at 3rd and Pine, they sort of marched away from that location where we had shown you the armored vehicles, and we followed them here, but frankly, they weren't a part of this group of looters. They continued on this street, whatever street I'm on, I can't quite figure it out. They kept going, and then they came back. And one of them sort of chastised me for not paying attention to the protesters that were peaceful. And I pointed out that we were there, but then this happened, and it is quite the scene. It's interesting to hear some of these looters say things like, I need to find my everyday shoes, and then see them come out with boxes and boxes, and if they have coordinated it correctly, then somebody in a car pulls up. Oh, I'm hearing they're coming. So, oh yeah, I can see down the street there's a police vehicle heading this way, and we don't know if this is the ultimate target, but somebody just yelled out to warn people, and so now they're leaving as quickly as they have arrived and poured in. Of course, there's a lot of traffic in this intersection, so it's going to take a minute for the vehicle with its lights flashing to actually make its way. Carlos, I don't know if you can see that vehicle down that way. So that is definitely creating a situation where people are trying to get away, get out of the store with all of their purloined purchases, or rather not purchases, purloined possessions, and get out of the store and get away from the police. They're not exactly trying to get here very quickly, but it does seem to be helping in terms of like loosening up the traffic in this location. Again, I see that the vehicle's stopped. It's not really coming this way, and traffic is definitely moving with the idea that the police are here and they want to make it here,
Susan.
make it to this store. So. Yeah,
good to see Carlos, our photographer, is okay getting us this video right now. Thanks very much for this coverage. If we get back to you, I would love to hear more from these people as to why they feel this is okay, why they're doing this. I'd love to hear it in their words. All right, Susan Hirasuna, thank you so much. We're going to begin more coverage here of Fox 11 News. A split tonight in Southern California. Peaceful protests in many areas and violent chaos in others, from Santa Monica to Long Beach. Hundreds of looters with arms full and no officers in sight. Some protesters stepping in, risking their own lives to stop the violence. And in downtown L.A., protests and this very close call with a cruiser.
With images of a nation coming apart, we must not let them win.
We're covering all of the events from LA County to the OC. Our special coverage begins right now.
Welcome to Fox 11 News at 8 p.m. I'm Alex Michelson.
And I'm Christine Devine. We are watching looting right now in the Long Beach area. It's been a very long day where we've seen this also in Santa Monica. We're going to check back in on the ground there with reporter Susan Hirasuna.
But first, let's talk about some of the headlines of this evening. Los Angeles County curfew now in effect, clearly not being enforced in the Long Beach area. We are seeing that widespread looting. National Guard is now in Santa Monica. They have gotten there hours after the problem was really in effect there. We have seen peaceful protests in addition to that looting throughout the day. We want to make sure to separate the peaceful, important protests from the lawlessness that we're also seeing. As we showed during that open, we did see some protesters protecting some of those businesses from looters, which was an emotional scene live on Fox 11 earlier. But there is this emotional scene playing out live on Fox 11 right now. Susan Hirasuna, our weekend anchor, out in Long Beach in front of the Gene Machine. Susan.
Yes, here on at the Gene Machine on this intersection where traffic has seemed to be loosened up a little bit. It was a lot more crowded where people were actually parking so that they could take their possessions or their stolen possessions rather and put them into a car. Now, some people are quite cavalier about just standing here. I see this young woman here. Would you mind if I ask you a quick question?
Yeah.
Okay, tell me what you have in your arm.
I don't know, something that somebody dropped. I just picked it up. I don't know what it is. Some shoestrings, but yeah. So I just picked it up off the ground. I didn't go in the store.
Right.
I don't agree. I don't like that they're doing it.
What is your reaction to this scene?
It's sad. It sucks that it's come to this, but Black Lives Matter. All lives matter.
Well, what does one have to do with the other? What's the stealing and destruction?
To be honest, nothing. It doesn't. Well, yeah, she's more political. Let her take the mic because I'm not.
Well, what are you planning on doing with this stuff that you just picked up off the ground?
I don't know. I don't probably give it to the homeless. I work at a mental health, so probably pass it out to the homeless people.
What is your name?
Kanisha.
Yeah. Do you want to make comment? You seem to have a point of view.
Honestly, I feel like people are protesting and rioting because our voices aren't heard when we're peaceful, so why not make a mess and destroy stuff? Then you guys will finally listen to us after all this time.
And how do you feel about, I mean, you don't look like you're participating.
I mean, I think it's sad, but what else can we do? Like, we tried to be peaceful, but you guys don't listen, so now this.
Okay, and what is your name?
Zamira.
Zamira, and are you a Long Beach resident?
Yes.
Okay, Long Beach, and you don't want to participate, but you don't disapprove.
Yeah, I mean, I have mixed emotions about it, but yes.
All right, Zamira, thank you very much. Very well spoken. Someone who's decided she doesn't want to participate, but she's certainly not looking on and not feeling like this is wrong. I'm going to show you a brand new shoe. Let me bring this over to Carlos. So this is the kind of thing that's left over. Carlos, let me show you this shoe. So a brand New Balance shoe. It's quite small, actually. That's it. Just one shoe. So somewhere along the line, someone has a stolen shoe, but not the mate. So I guess it makes as much sense as anything else, breaking through to a store and having some people basically say, well, it's okay because the guy has insurance, perhaps. But just the scene by itself is very uncomfortable, to say the least, very not exactly what you would want to see. And would you want your grandmother to see you do this kind of thing? That's what I would like to ask these people.
Susan,
would your grandmother approve?
We're going to stay with your picture here. I have some information.
That's a very good question. I mean, there's a gentleman here that, let me see if he'll talk to me.
Sure.
He has no merchandise, but he did go into the store. Do you want to talk to me? Yes, can you keep it clean?
Yes.
Okay, good. What is your name, sir?
Antonio Singleton.
So I saw you go in, Antonio.
Yeah.
You did not come out with anything.
No.
How do you feel about this looting?
I feel like it's needed. It's the looting is not ideal or nothing like that, but we have to get a point across. Unfortunately, buildings can be rebuilt, property can be rebought, but lives can't be brought back, you feel me? So right now, everybody's hurting. There are some people taking advantage of it, but at the end of the day, there's people taking advantage of other people's lives, so
there's a lot of peaceful protesters that want to draw a distinction between their protesting against police brutality, excuse me, and then the looters who seem to be just being anarchical. I mean, they just want to be disruptive and destructive. Do you see that distinction?
I see that distinction. There's definitely people out here for their own gain. That's very obvious. But there's also people out here who really trying to take a stand for all the social injustices going on right now. So unfortunately, the looting, people are always going to look at the looting part. They try to take the negative out of every story and try to personify that part. Right. But the message is clear that us as colored people are tired of all the discrimination, all the stuff that's going on. Of course, the looting is bad. Everything is bad. There's always some problem in everything. But, the real issue is the life being lost.
Yeah. All right. Thank you. You're very well spoken. Thank you. I really. Okay, so it's a little hard to control the language here.
We're doing the best we.
Back to you guys.
All right, Susan.
I have some information here from somebody who knows the owners of this business, and they wanted to point out that the people who own this Gene machine have worked, quote, so hard to build their business, serving all their neighbors with the best deal around. This person tells me it's taken several decades for Long Beach to build up downtown, bringing free events to the people. So this person seemed to be very concerned about what we're seeing here and concerned for the owners who have, she says, worked very hard to, quote, serve their neighbors and to be a part of the community. She also seemed to think that because the train comes into Long Beach, that not everybody there is from Long Beach.
Right. I mean, I think you have to, when you think about this and you think about the why, I mean, what is this moment in American history telling us about income inequality in our country, too? I mean, the chasm that has been growing for the last 50, 60 years in such a dramatic way, in the last couple months of people literally not making money. Have we reached a tipping point in this country on that, on issues of capitalism, on some of that? There's no part of me that is condoning this, but there is clearly something driving this. And the fact that people feel either desperate enough to do this or that this is okay from a moral perspective is an issue that we will need to address as a country going forward, because it's clearly a major, major issue.
And we've heard people say it, Alex, to get the message across is the reason why they feel the looting is part of what's happening here, part of the complaint, the message, the distraught, the anger about the death of black men.
But that is where I think a lot of people lose the majority of the country, just from a political reporter's perspective. I think there's a majority of the country that believes that the George Floyd death was wrong, that there needs to be changes to prevent something like that from happening in the future. The leap is, okay, the response to that should be stealing something from an owner of the Gene machine who has worked hard to build up that business, what did that person have to do with the Minneapolis police officer that killed George Floyd? And that leap is hard for a lot of people to make.
You heard the young man talking to Susan who said, you're always going to get the looting.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of people that don't want to accept that. Let's go to Kevin Takumi, who's in Skyfox. He's over downtown L.A., which so far has been peaceful. Does that continue now, Kevin?
For the most part here, this is a group that's been started, this little march here started southbound on Hill Street, coming down all the way down from the City Hall area. About 30 minutes ago, though, they had a shooting that happened in a couple of locations, one at 9th and Olive and the other one. And later they found one person that was struck by gunfire and pronounced dead here at the scene at Olympic and Hill. Now, LAPD, as well as you can see down below, the National Guard has moved in here to protect that crime scene while they investigate that shooting, but they are trying to just hold people back. They are letting the march continue southbound on Hill Street here, and they're just trying to let everyone pass by. But this it's
Where'd you guys go? Oh, hey, I just texted you. This is it, right?
We're looking out.
Where are you going to go?
Our car's at the courtyard, and we're either going to go find food or go back to the hotel.
Oh, where are you going to get food?
No idea.
Hold on, I'm going to come with you guys.
Okay, what's your car?
Down that road.
Oh, perfect. Yeah, we're in the courtyard garage.
Fought against police misconduct for 25 years. Some of the most famous cases in the city of LA, Margaret Mitchell, the homeless woman. And when I hear young people, people who will take over the world, talking about justifying criminal conduct, it hurts. I'm asking myself, what have I done? Have I been a good role model? But I have never, during the course of my 25 years as a civil rights lawyer, which I am very proud of, I have never been motivated to rob and loot and justify it as some type of nexus to this. It doesn't make sense.
Your perspective means so much. We're going to stand by and go live now to Long Beach. We are watching right now people trying to break into the, looks like the Ross store in Long Beach. Susan, are you with us?
Coming with baskets, and they'll be in soon.
Susan, go ahead.
All right. So you see here, we are out front of the Ross. This is across the street from the store that we were at previously. The window has already been broken, and slowly but surely they're making entry through the plywood. It's just a matter of continuing to kick at it, and slowly but surely they're able to get in. So people have come by, and they're ready to make their way inside and to get more stuff. So you see there, as soon as they know that it is open, then they run towards that little entry point. I actually saw a woman come and bring a basket, like a box, so that she could collect her stuff and pull it away. It's surreal. You know, it's just the wildest thing. There's a guy here with an empty bag waiting to get in. You need to get in? Okay, so they're in. People are making their way in right now. This is just bizarre. I mean, it is surreal for me to see this. And frankly, you know, Alex and Christine, you all know that typically there would be people that would not be happy with the fact that we're here with a camera, but they don't seem to mind at all. Now, part of it is, you know, thanks to the coronavirus pandemic, people have to be wearing a mask, and so that does help in terms of keeping their anonymity. And meantime, people are keeping an eye out for police, but there seems to be something that I don't know about that might be a little further east, because the police helicopter is focusing on that. Meantime, we're just out here, and at least a dozen people have made their way in. I wonder if they're going to be as aggressive as they were at that last store, as in like go in and go out, or if they're just going to take their time, as it seemed like we saw a couple scenes like that where people were a little bit more picky. And I told you about that other scene in Beverly Hills. Oh my gosh, this guy's got a hammer with him, and he's just continuously chewing his way through that plywood.
Susan, we've talked about many of the
helicopter is now overhead.
Many of the Antifa protesters often carry hammers with them in their bag of tools. Susan, I'm going to interrupt you for a second, because now we have the chief of police of Long Beach with us on the line, Robert Luna. Chief, I think a lot of our viewers that are going to be watching this, and they understand what a challenge this is for you, but they're wondering, as they watch looting live on the air, where are the police?
Well, good evening, and thank you for having me on. The Long Beach Police Department is out here. We are in multiple places in the city. Yes, we have a significant challenge tonight, but you know what? Our police officers and the many other police officers that have come into the city of Long Beach are going to be strong tonight, and they're going to get the job done. And we're going to be fine. But as you see with other cities...
Is this getting the job done, what we're looking at right now?
I'm sorry?
Is this what we're looking at? People literally breaking into a store and taking whatever they want. Is that getting the job done?
Well, I'm not sitting in front of a television at this second, because I moved away from the command post to talk to all of you. But anytime you see anybody looting, that's a criminal act. And I got to be honest with you, it's kind of sad because as we prepared for this, we were hoping for peaceful protest to honor the life of George Floyd. And unfortunately, what we've seen is instigators who are out committing criminal acts and really taking away from what I believe is a very good message dealing with the death of Mr. Floyd.
Chief Luna, right now we are watching people who've broken into the Ross store. A woman is right in front of our news camera, not shy about showing part of her face. We watched them use a skateboard and just a hammer to break into the Ross. They are pouring into the Ross and coming out with clothing and supplies. I want to thank you for taking my request to call in. But here's my question for you. What is the strategy of the Long Beach Police Department as we've seen this looting?
It's to try and stop it and make arrests whenever we can. So I'll make sure, I just sent somebody out to make sure that they're aware of that location, and we'll send officers there if they're not on their way there to deal with it. But I've got to tell you, for all the people who are out here trying to do the right thing and protest the right way, please call us and let us know when this is happening. And you know what? We've got to remind each other that this is not sending the right message. This is criminal behavior, and we cannot tolerate it. For you in the media, us in policing, and just our community in general, this cannot be tolerated.
What are the consequences for these people? We've heard with some of the other police departments that they're basically so overrun that they're arresting and releasing people. If you find people that are looting, which by the way is happening right now live on our air, and you're able to get there, will these people be taken under arrest, and what is the punishment for this?
Yes, they will be arrested if they get caught looting, and there's a specific section for looting. That's not a cite and release. That charge is gonna you're gonna end up going to jail. And you're right to ask that question, because I think us as a community are very frustrated, specifically with the zero bail. Because remember, when you're stealing, the theft of property is not a violent crime, and typically people don't get held in jail for that. But tonight, or any of these nights, as all of the officers in our region are dealing with this, people who are looting are going to go to jail.
All right, Chief Luna, as we're watching this, we want to make sure our crews are safe, and that's our reporter Susan Hirosuna who's there. Let me ask you this. We've seen the National Guard move into Santa Monica. Are you also asking for the National Guard to have a presence in Long Beach?
Not at this time, but it's a tool in our toolbox. We have been asking the LA County Sheriff's Department for resources, and we have hundreds of officers that they've sent us, and there's still more coming our way. If for some reason we don't believe we have enough resources, we can absolutely get the National Guard in our city.
I think the heartbreak we're seeing here is that people are pulling up in their cars to 4th and Promenade. They're pulling up in their cars and they're going into businesses and they're just taking a clothing, so much so that there's no law enforcement there that they can go in 2 and 3 times and come back and load up their car.
Yeah, it sounds like it's a horrible situation, and I'm going to make sure that we get people there as soon as possible.
Why do you think this is happening? What's going on in our society where this is happening, where people think that this is okay?
That's an excellent question, because again, I don't want to mix the criminal behavior that you're describing with individuals who are out here legitimately protesting because there was an injustice done several thousand miles away. And I think it's sad, because at the end of the day, I think there's people who literally want to make positive change. And I've got to tell you, a lot of our employees, our officers on the front line, feel the same way they do. But I'll tell you what, looting, burning cars, destroying property, how does that make any change?
Yeah.
It actually makes most of the people look at this and say, you know what, we're not going to pay attention because this is criminal behavior. Again, I want to emphasize that criminal behavior is a small percentage of all the good people who are out there protesting with their right to, and actually a very good cause.
Do you have enough officers to actually stop this, as we watch multiple different locations where this looting happens with no officers anywhere in sight? We saw in Santa Monica the same thing happen. The National Guard pulled up 4 hours later after everything was already done. Do you have the resources to meet this actual challenge that we're faced with right now?
Well, I believe we do have enough officers on the street, and we're getting more as we're speaking. So we will be able to handle this.
How is that true, though? I mean, you got to. That doesn't match the reality that we're seeing right now.
You know what? I'm not looking at it, and I think it's unfair that you're sitting here. You've asked me the same question over and over. We've got people on the way. It's unacceptable, and I think you asking the question over and over is going to make it any better. We're going to get people out there, make sure that we can absolutely handle it. And it is. I could tell you're frustrated, I'm frustrated, and we'll get people out there and hopefully make as many arrests as we can as soon as possible.
Yeah. Chief, let me ask you this question. I don't know if you have the answer to this one. Do you feel like what we're hearing, what we're seeing, what you're hearing, is it people coming from outside, do you hear?
Yes. From what we see and we can hear, there are a lot of people that are not from Long Beach. And as our curfew is at 8 p.m. As we're getting more and more officers in here, we're going to be able to take more effective action and start arresting people. But we haven't verified where everybody's from. But this is absolutely not reflective of the citizens of Long Beach. This is not what Long Beach citizens do.
Well, Chief, Christine and I both are such big fans of Long Beach. We think it's such a great city, and we know you and your officers have done such important work for so many years to build up downtown Long Beach, and I can only imagine what a challenge this is for all of you, and I know we're all frustrated watching this because it is such a challenging time for everybody. We wish you the best of luck tonight. We do appreciate you taking time to talk with us and to talk with our viewers, and all the best as we all try to get through this together.
I appreciate both of you, and yeah, we're all frustrated, and keep on showing it because I want people to see that this criminal behavior is not going to change anything. But again, we're supporting all of the peaceful protests that are occurring. So thank you for covering it, and I hope your reporters stay safe out there.
Thank you very much, Chief Robert Luna. We appreciate your perspective tonight. Okay.
Inside that bitch. Yeah, I'm inside. They said the police are coming in this way, so I'm gonna go look and see if they are advancing. Oh yeah, it looks like they're setting up over here. I gotta take my battery out for now, so this thing doesn't.
And bringing him to me and telling me, yeah, I found this on the street, I'm picking it up. And I go, what are you going to do with it? And he goes, I don't know. I know the owner of Gene Machine, so I'll probably just give it back to him. And he was telling me that he was on the corner and just crying. So meantime, you see here a lot of people, they somehow managed to find bags and boxes, and they've got a bunch of merchandise, stolen merchandise in those bags.
I think what we're seeing is how difficult it is to handle the situation in the many cities and what it takes to mobilize, like we've seen in Santa Monica, where they have restored order per the sheriff.
Young people, I feel like the old guy here. People of many ethnicities. So many young people. I'm like the old guy here in this gathering. I'm grateful that Daniel, my eldest son, wanted to come here.
Wow, God bless you.
This is downtown San Diego in front of the administration building at Waterfront Park. It's a peaceful assembly. Here with my eldest son, Daniel. I'm proud of all of these young people. Everyone standing up for justice. Everyone standing up for what's right. This is Pentecost Sunday.
You don't have a jacket in your car?
Daniel and I are moving towards the front. Call your mother to log into my Facebook wall so she can see us. This is Pentecost Sunday, and remember that story in Pentecost when the apostles were wondering why is it that there's so many different voices and tongues that are being spoken and they couldn't understand it, and Peter gave the interpretation that everyone's praising Jesus. Well, here it is. Many voices gathered together in one voice, in one heart, calling for justice. What's that sound? Hold it up high. Oh my. Oh my. There's tear gas. Oh my God. There's tear gas. There's tear gas. Tear gas has been thrown into the crowd. The police have thrown tear gas. Don't look at the... There's tear gas that was just thrown in a safe assembly. It was a peaceful assembly, and tear gas was shot in the crowd. We have a right to protest here and to assemble. It was a peaceful assembly. Daniel, are you okay? Tear gas was just dispersed. A peaceful assembly. And tear gas was shot into the crowd as we had a peaceful gathering. We'll be back.
It absolutely is, and it's so in your face. And you're right. I mean, I was out here in Santa Monica earlier today when they had that peaceful protest going up and down Ocean. I went and I took a look at it because I live nearby. There was nothing wrong with that protest. Everybody was very peaceful. There was nothing wrong. And then it seemed like a separate group of instigators used that because the media and the police were distracted by that peaceful protest. And then they went to 3rd Street Promenade when nobody was looking, and they hit Santa Monica Place, and that's what sparked all of the looting.
Yeah.
Yeah, opportunists. And yeah.
Bill, we're going to check in with Christina Gonzalez, who's been in downtown LA for us. Christina, it looks like we have protesters there on the move.
Well, no, actually, you have protesters being arrested right now.
Okay.
They did declare an order, and what you're seeing right now is Metro. Behind the line are people who sat down and refused to move from City Hall, and you can see that there's a woman here being arrested. As they arrest them and they process them, I'm going to show you which way they're going. Let me take a step, and over here we have another one. And so far, the arrests have been pretty peaceful. A few people were not happy about it, but they were told they had been given an order to disperse and a way out, and when they didn't, now you see them behind me over here, and this is how Metro does it. They actually surround the
Silence! Silence! Get away! Which one? ready. Shut the fuck up. Stop nobody. Half the time, it's motherfucking. I mean, you want to be honest. What y'all want to say about it? What do we want? What do we want? Justice! When do we want it? Now! What do we want? Justice! When do we want it? Now! What do we want? Justice! When do we want it? Now! What do we want? Justice! When do we want it? Now! What do we need? Justice! When do we need it? Now! What do we need? Justice! When do we need it? Now! What do we need? Justice! Fucking need it! Oh shit. I got assist. Oh shit. Assess the danger. There you go, gotta assess the danger. Prepare yourself, by the way. It reminds you, people should have spread a little bit. I can't do You're not prepared. We knew he was in his way. Hope you know. Right here. Just let it go. Black Lives Matter! Tactics. Black Lives Matter! You see, right here, here we go. Here we go. They're gonna corral us in this fucking area, so I'm together we're strong. Let's go. Lock arms. Lock them up. My shit dead. I don't even want to. I'll stay here. Actually, I need to assess the threat. I have to be on guard and assess the threat, just in case. Always assess the threat, know what's going on. Hold on, as a matter of fact. Just because I have my vest. I have my vest. If it literally lands right, pick it up to exactly. Just started. Come on, guys, we're either going to die coronavirus. Go! Stop your... Come on! Where's everyone going?
Because they're setting up a perimeter.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's what he just told him.
Cool.
Looks like downtown tonight, just a lot of people out that should not be out past the curfew. It was clearly made through that announcement through Sheriff Alex Villanueva that the curfew was 6 p.m. and that would be county-wide.
And while this is going on, we showed you some images a little bit earlier from Long Beach. There was looting continuing on Long Beach Boulevard from 4th to 6th Street for about a 2-block area. And we saw a lot of people running out of a store called the Gene Machine. And, you know, police are in the area. Again, a curfew down in Long Beach, but people still out on the streets and looting continues. And here in downtown Los Angeles, there's a large group of protesters that are moving through the streets. It looks like police are trying to funnel them, but occasionally we'll see, you know, maybe a dozen of those protesters breaking off and running off on a side street and around a corner into a parking lot in a different direction. And here we see a little bit of that here. These were, you know, part of that protester group, but they're running. Question is, why are they running?
Yeah, and you also mentioned, Glenn, the fact that the vehicles are out there as well. These are not just police vehicles trying to maintain order. There are random vehicles as well that are not supposed to be out at this hour as well. So especially in the space of these protesters. And another thing that we mentioned too is that, you know, with mass crowds like this, if you're driving and you're in that area, or if you're even a protester protesting your voice, and you know, somebody could get nervous in that area and hit the accelerator instead of the brake and you know, make a mistake. And so it's just overall very dangerous. And as night is here as well, it's never a good thing. We woke up today, saw so many fires and looting on Melrose and Fairfax, and you know, waking up today knowing and seeing that, it was like a war zone in a weird way. It was really unfortunate to see.
All right, we're going to take you back to Long Beach now, and again, we're not quite sure this location, but we know there's a lot of looting going on between 4th and 6th Street on Long Beach Boulevard. This might actually be the backside of maybe one of those businesses or stores. Actually, this might be a CVS pharmacy. Man, that's what it looks like.
Again, cars waiting.
Yeah.
For people to go in and do whatever they're doing in there, and then to come out and essentially have, you know, a getaway car. It looks like they're kind of wanting to move a little quicker here. Maybe they've gotten word that, well, no, now they're going back in. So sometimes you'll see them in there, and then they hear that the cops are coming, and they'll all disperse and run out of the way. But there are no police officers in sight here. And as you mentioned, this is a drugstore.
Yeah, it is.
And this is in Long Beach. We've been seeing protests in Long Beach for hours now. Earlier it was pretty mellow, but a pretty large crowd. I don't think they were expecting such a large crowd. I think they knew that there would be protests. I remember we were over at Live around 6 o'clock. And it was fairly large but peaceful. And now it seems in the last couple of nights, what we're starting to see is that trend is the larger crowds when it's daylight, and then as the dark comes, this is what it has turned to, are these looters.
No, the peaceful protesters, they leave for the most part when they're supposed to or try to, but there's all these groups, you know, breaking off and still lingering around and causing problems. And we see that going on in Long Beach tonight. Downtown Los Angeles, a little hard to tell exactly what is going on. We see groups of people, you know, running down the street. We don't know if they're doing any damage to businesses on a street level when they're doing that. But you know, we just can't tell at this point because we don't have communication with that chopper. But you can clearly see the pictures here that people here going into the various stores, and they continue to loot down in Long Beach tonight.
It's really interesting how many vehicles are out on the road at this hour for there to be a curfew out, especially right there in that area. You know, and a lot of the larger corporations, I've noticed, the bigger companies basically began boarding up just in case. It's interesting that this wasn't boarded up, and in fact it could have been boarded up in some capacity. Maybe they forgot to do the back door, and that's how they got into that back door, that back entrance that they're getting into.
Yeah, I think it might have caught a lot of people by surprise. Okay, now we're back. They're back in downtown Los Angeles, I believe, and again, now look at this. You got, you know, they're running down the street and they went in two different directions.
Yeah.
So you just, you know, it almost seems like this is choreographed, and it may very well be. I mean, a lot of what's been going on here has been it's been planned out and choreographed, and a lot of the violence and damage that we've seen.
Yeah, I think when it gets to this point, when the numbers are that large, I think it just becomes chaos. And you know, clearly this car is, you know, going pretty quickly through the group of people. Those are probably police officers there, why everyone's running. But see, then the crowd kind of gathers around the police as well, which is they can't really stop and get out, because then it becomes more of a mob mentality, and that can be very dangerous for them. I can't imagine accidentally just driving through, you know, maybe having an emergency and then have to come up on this. It must be very nerve-wracking for residents.
No, we've dealt with that a few times with news, as you know, being a part of a news crew.
Exactly.
You go to a protest and things get a little out of hand.
Looking at LAPD's headquarters Twitter page, they were saying that estimated over 400 arrests on Saturday night. The numbers for tonight obviously have not come through, but close to 400 arrests were made on Saturday, related obviously to these protests. The charges include burglary, looting, vandalism, failure to disperse, felon in possession of a gun, and numerous curfew violations. And then also 5 Los Angeles police officers were injured throughout the protest on Saturday. Some had concussions and broken bones, and one, in fact, had a fractured skull. All right,
let's break away from this for just a second. There was also a demonstration down in Orange County today. We're going to take a look at some video from Huntington Beach. If we could take a look at that real quick. Do we have that?
Huntington Beach was interesting. They were really quiet and not protesting too badly, and then things changed.
Well, there was a lot of protest a couple of weeks into the, into the quarantine or the, stay-at-home orders because of the coronavirus.
Yeah, things are getting really.
All right, let's go back. Yeah, maybe we should get back to Huntington Beach just a minute.
Things are looking a little.
Yeah, again,
frantic.
Again, running around a quarter. Some respects a little spread out, but that's a large group of people, and that has to be police vehicles that are behind them, I would think.
And not going that slow. I mean, those vehicles are moving pretty quickly, and the protesters running as opposed to walking. And I don't even know if these are considered protesters anymore. I think these are just simply looters now on the streets of downtown Los Angeles. But massive amounts of people all running in one direction, and then all of a sudden will just merge, one to the right, one to the left. No rhyme or reason around it. But this is definitely, fringing on mob mentality, which can, as we've seen before, can become very dangerous quickly.
And if it is police vehicles behind them trying to, trying to push them in a particular direction, when they do get to an intersection and they break off in different directions, and that, then the police have to make a decision on which group to follow if they're breaking off into different groups like that. But again, you see those vehicles or those intersections, and those people start running through. I mean, there's not much you can do. You don't want to move because you may be afraid you're going to hit somebody.